and welcome back. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Mark. Thanks to everyone out there for tuning in to another episode of Cincinnati Zoo Tales. We've got a really fun episode today, celebrating none other than Fiona the hippo. Have you ever heard of her? Hopefully, if you're listening to this podcast, you've heard of Fiona. It's her 7th birthday tomorrow. If you're listening to this, it's probably already her 7th birthday, January 24th. We're really excited. We're being joined by our coworker in the Africa department and one of the original Team Fiona members, Wendy Rice. Wendy, thanks for taking the time out of your day to come and hang out with us, talk about Fiona a little bit.
Oh, of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so this will be coming out on Fiona's actual birthday. It worked out perfectly. Our episodes come out every other Wednesday, and it happened that this one will be coming out on January 24th. She was born in 2017, so she is wildly somehow 7 years old now.
Isn't that insane? How's it been 7 years?
I don't know, because that feels like a really long time. I think mostly because like my full-time career started 10 years ago, so she's been like the majority of that time. And it changed our like careers and our lives.
Right. And it's still so wild that she's still so popular.
Oh my gosh.
Like, It was madness the first year, and then it continued to be madness, and then and it just kind of never ended. It's still just everyone's obsessed with Fiona, so
it's slowed down a tiny bit. Like in the past, I feel like coming around her birthday time, we would have like 3 to 4 interviews with like local news channels leading up to it or on the day of. And so far I've only heard of one, and I'm not sure if anyone's showing up on her actual birthday, but it is slowing down. But still, the local news wants to hear about Fiona, and obviously her following on all of the different hippo pages on Facebook and things are very, very popular still.
Yeah, the craze is very much still alive. Like you said, we've been saying for years now, like, surely this is the year it starts to slow down, right? Still never slows down. I thought Fritz was going to steal the spotlight. I thought it was like Fritz is going to become more popular than Fiona. He's got just as big of a personality as she does in a lot of ways. So I thought it was going to be Fritz, but no, Fiona still reigns supreme. I don't know.
I think there's just such a loyal fan base to her that while he's really cute and he's a baby right now, like her story and everyone who kind of like grew up with her is going to stay loyal to loving her the most.
Yeah. People were able to connect to her in a different light. Yeah, that's for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So it is different these days. There aren't a ton of new things happening in Fiona's world. She's hit a lot of her milestones, reaching, reproductive maturity and a lot of the things that we were looking forward to as she grew up. And now she's hit those, and it's just, she's living her life. Like, adding Fritz to her life has definitely been her probably biggest change, I would say, in the last little bit over a year. But overall, Fiona's still doing really well. We were chatting, though. We think that her personality has changed a little bit, or she's just come into her like more sub-adult or adult personality. And we won't lie, like she's a little moody,
yes.
What word to use, and it's hard to say exactly what's causing that. So we mentioned she has reached reproductive maturity, and that usually is happening anywhere between 5 and 7 with female hippos. And at the same time, Fritz came along, so we add that variable. And that meant she was separated from Bibi to give Bibi and Fritz time to bond and just give them the space that they needed. And then, she's just older and a teenager kind of.
I feel that too. I definitely feel like there's a little bit of like just teenager syndrome going on where she's gone through whatever hormonal changes, right? And then there's all these interesting dynamics in the bloat because we do have 4 hippos living together. And it's like between Bibi and Tucker perpetually figuring each other out, and she's trying to figure out where she falls in that mix. And then she's also kind of asserting her dominance over Fritz when no one's looking, like testing the waters here and trying to figure out like, all right, if I wanted to throw down and let him know who's boss, this is what it looks like. And she does it in a gentle way, but she still is very much testing the waters, it feels like.
Yes. So we've seen like this different change in Fiona, but it's hard to describe. And she's still like totally, lovable and all of the wonderful things about her. But she's a grown up hippo now.
Yeah.
Not 100%, but I don't know. I was completely wrong. I thought she would love Fritz and they would be the best of buddies and they would play and be wild all day. And I think like what she was to Tucker or she was to Bibi just biting their tail and kind of getting on their nerves, he is that to her now. And she's like, I do this to others. You don't do this to me, sort of thing.
It's very much like a little brother, big sister dynamic, right? It seems like he's kind of just like pestering her and nipping at her, like you said. it's funny to me because it's come full circle, right? We used to see Fiona do all those same things to BB, and BB would get a little bit tired of it. And now Fritz is doing those things to Fiona. He nibbles on her tail, he bites at her ears, and all those kind of things. And like just like any big sister would with a big brother or little brother who's just pestering you, every now and then she does have to snap at him and kind of let him know, like, that's not acceptable, that's not okay. But,
and then it is the same thing as like a human dynamic. I feel like the little one gets away with things though, so Fiona has to watch what she does, because BB will discipline Fiona if Fiona tries to tell Fritz no sometimes, so she has to watch what she does, and he gets away with a lot,
very much so,
which is funny to see, but I've also noticed BB is starting to like put him in his place more, and she's not quite as patient with him.
Agreed. Yes, she's I think we're getting to the point where he's old enough now that like her discipline is starting to get a little more serious.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's weird, like when you're talking about like the dynamic between Fritz and Fiona, and I'm thinking back to when I visited Africa and we saw hippos in the wild, and it was like these kids grouped off by like weight class, almost like wrestlers. Like you would see all hippos that were roughly exactly the same size, like sparring and playing together. And there was literally like the baby section, the toddler section, the sub-adult section in this huge pod of hippos. So it makes sense from like a natural history standpoint too. Like she really wouldn't be palling around with him. She would be palling around with other hippos that are her age and size and like reaching sexual maturity too.
So that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it from that perspective, it's like it's right in line with what she should be doing as a hippo. So I guess all good things, even if it doesn't look like how we envisioned it in our minds or how we wanted it to.
Yeah. At the end of the day, to me, it's a good sign because, like, she's acting like a hippo, right?
Exactly.
Like, that's what we wanted for her. Obviously, she had such a unique upbringing being hand-raised, but we wanted her at the end of the day to be a hippo and to fit in with the others, and that's exactly what she's doing. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to mention, we talked about Fiona, and we always get in the mindset of people know who she is and her story, but for anyone listening who's new, Fiona was born at least 6 weeks prematurely. The reason we say at least is because her mother, Bibi, and father, Henry, bred for the entire month of July back in 2016, so she could have been conceived at the end of the month, which would have meant she was even earlier than we thought. So she was born at 29 pounds. Typically, a calf is anywhere between 50 and 100 pounds. Her little brother, Fritz, was about 80 pounds when he was born. So she was incredibly small, about a third of his size, and we weren't sure if she would survive. So Fiona has a whole Facebook show and a million things you could watch to learn more about her growing up, and that's where she kind of grew her fame, was because we had the whole world fighting along with her through social media and sending her cards of encouragement and us snacks of encouragement and all sorts of things. We did the first ever ultrasound on a Nile hippo with Bibi, and Bibi also allowed us to milk her, so we were able to send that milk to the Smithsonian National Milk Repository for exotic milk and analyze that milk and make a formula that was specific to hippos, which I think probably helped keep her alive because she had a premature digestive system, and who knows what a different type of milk would have done to her digestive system, or maybe she wouldn't have gotten the nutrients that she really needed to survive. So Fiona had a crazy start to life that I forgot to bring up at the beginning of this. But we mentioned she does have a little brother, Fritz, now, and they are getting along, but some of you wrote in questions to us on Instagram that we wanted to answer, and one of those was, how has her personality changed since Fritz joined, and is she still as close with Bibi? And that's kind of what we were just talking about. Is it's so hard because there are variables of her age and reproductive maturity and Fritz joining the bloat that we aren't sure which one of those, or if all of them, or just her age in general cause a little bit of a difference. But her and Bibi are so close. The bloat, as gets along great. We have mentioned that they, nip at each other or play fight or do get annoyed with one another, but that's normal in the hippo world. So overall, we've seen Fiona's personality change a little bit, but we don't know exactly the cause, or it could be all of the things. And Bibi and Fiona still do lay together. We see all four of them sleeping together, but there's a big difference with Fritz and Fiona. Fritz will just go and do his own thing and nap by himself. And Fiona used to always be tucked up next to Bibi, until Fritz came along. So I do wonder if that has anything to do with it at times, if she wishes she still had her alone time with Bibi.
Oh, yeah.
But it's hard to know. They can't tell us exactly.
Right. Yeah, there's so many times where I go to the window and all of them are smashed up on Bibi. Everybody wants to be touching Bibi at all times. So Fritz is on her, Fiona's on her, Tucker's on the back end too, and it's BB's clearly the main hub, the main focus of the bloat and everything. So I think maybe, just sharing her attention for one, just like any older sibling, like Mark said, that's challenging. So.
Yes. But overall, we think she's happy, and we're very happy with how the bloat gets along, and it's natural for them, and we're proud of how far she's come. 7 years, it's wild.
Definitely. So you did mention some of these questions we had written in by people. One of the big questions that I know I get when I'm out at Hippo, and I'm sure, imagine both of you guys get as well, is when and if we think Fiona's going to have a baby. Could you speak to that a little bit, if and when you see that coming?
We have gone over this so many times, and I mean, at this point, she has hit sexual maturity, and she's on birth control, so at this point, we are actively preventing her from getting pregnant, and on that note, we have seen her breed with Tucker. She has been cooperative in that attempt, and thankfully the birth control is holding. I think the biggest hesitation on our end is her size, because she is a little bit small for a hippo her age. So there's a few concerns about whether she would, carry full term without having any issues herself. And then also at this point, we just have a full house in Hippo Cove. There's frankly not room to add another hippo to the mix, right?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, her size, that was another question that we got, is she is still small for her age, or not necessarily weight-wise, but height-wise, she's short, and length-wise, she's short. So she's a smaller hippo, just under 2,500 pounds. We're recording this on Tuesday, the day before her birthday. We just had our scale fixed, so I do not have the most up-to-date weight on her exactly today for this recording, but tomorrow for her birthday, Facebook Live will be able to tell you her weight. But under 2,500 pounds, so she's on the small side. For reference, BB, her mom, is a larger female, but she's 3,500 pounds, and she's much longer and taller than Fiona. So, like Wendy mentioned, we have a small concern that if she did get pregnant, that if she were to carry a full-term calf, or a calf to full term, that it would be very large for her small frame. So it's hard to say. I think in the future, when we do have space for another hippo, genetically, her and Tucker make a good match, and we would like to spread her genes and contribute to the genetic diversity of hippos and zoos. So it's still a question, right? If, but we do hope that she is large enough where we feel comfortable that it's safe for her and in the future. But right now we don't have enough space here at the Cincinnati Zoo, and we aren't quite sure if she has enough space in her body. So we're playing it safe for now. But I think she's at the point where we wouldn't feel incredibly concerned if she did get pregnant, but we would definitely be trying to, figure all the things out that we could.
Yeah. And I do think one thing that's important to emphasize that kind of goes along with animal breedings in general and animal pairings in zoos across the country. It's not just one decision that's made by one person, right? It's not like we get to sit here at this table and make the call, yeah, we're going to breed Fiona and Tucker. This is a decision that's made with the SSP, the Species Survival Plan, which we've talked a lot about on this podcast before. The Species Survival Plan, in Fiona's case in particular, we would have to make that decision with vet staff, with animal leadership team, with our keeper staff. I mean, this would be a huge decision to make if and when that time comes.
Yes, and sometimes things happen and we don't get a choice, like BB getting pregnant with Fritz. But we do think we have the birth control figured out a lot more. We've mentioned this before also, but there aren't a million hippos to study birth control with, and they're all different sizes and different methods of giving birth control to exotic animals. So we, our scientists in our crew facility have determined that it's probably based on weight more than we realized before. So BB gets a higher dose than Fiona because she is 1,000 pounds more heavier, and it seems to be doing the job now. So it can't be perfect. Like we said, there's only 80 or 90 hippos in zoos in general, so there's not just a free-for-all for hippos for us to study with birth control.
There's not that much data out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and it's noteworthy, a lot of facilities don't reintroduce a male after a female gives birth, so we're kind of unique in that sense that we were able to reintroduce Tucker, and we do have our breeding male with our breeding females actively, and a lot of times separation is just the simplest way to prevent that pregnancy. So for non-breeding facilities that have males and females, they might not even be using birth control. They may just be actively separating individuals, which doesn't help us much in terms of figuring out the science and the dynamics behind all of that.
Exactly, yeah. Even less than what we mentioned. So there's a lot that goes into it. we are hopeful that Fiona will be the size someday that we feel safe, and there will be the space and a need for her to be pregnant and become a mom herself, which would just be wild. I wonder.
I can't even.
No.
I have a really hard time processing that thought, honestly.
Oh, and the craziness that would come along with it. Everyone
Yeah.
wanting to see Fiona's baby, and
Yeah.
so.
It would be a ton of fun, that's for sure.
It's not a yes and it's not a no right now. We don't know when, but
We're just pushing that one down the road.
Yes.
We're going to reevaluate down the road. Yeah.
yes, not in a rush at all.
So another question we get, another concern I might even say from a lot of Fiona fans is, do we ever see Fiona leaving the zoo? Like, is she going to be here for a long time? Is she going to be gone next year? What's kind of the position on Fiona here at the Cincinnati Zoo?
I mean, as far as we've heard, she's not going anywhere ever. I mean, Thane has made that very clear, and we all talk about how the city would riot if she ever got sent anywhere. So, I mean, Tucker was brought here specifically because he could be a breeding partner to both BB and Fiona, so that was always the plan. And I think at this point, we all know that if a hippo has to leave, it will most likely be Fritz, right? Because once he starts to hit sexual maturity, he and Tucker may not get along anyway, so that just makes the most sense for a variety of reasons. But we've never heard any indication on our end that Fiona would ever leave.
She's actually the only animal I've ever worked with, and that I've heard others here at the zoo, that we've ever said, no, she won't leave. Like, it's usually, well, whatever the species survival plan needs, and she's the only one where it's been, like, okay to say, no, Fiona won't leave. Like, we'll make the accommodations necessary to bring a male here, or like we did, we brought Tucker, that sort of thing. So Fiona is like a 99.9% certainty that she will live her life here in Cincinnati. So Fiona should be here for the rest of her life, most likely.
Luckily to us, keeper staff, luckily to all her fans out there.
Yes.
She's going to be right here. Come and see her anytime you want. Another question we get a lot is, during this winter time, winter can be a little bit tricky in our climate, obviously, because it's going to get really cold. We're going to get snow here. What's the dynamics behind the scenes for the hippos during this cold season right now, while we're getting snow, while we're getting ice, and they can't be outside on the exhibit?
Well, thankfully, this past week has been rough, but usually there's only like 2 to 3 day stretches at most when the hippos can't go outside. We typically allow them to go out if it's 35 and sunny, but if there's days where they've been stuck inside for a few days in a row, we'll let them go out even when it's colder than that, just to get some fresh air and some extra exercise. But typically a winter day, if they are stuck inside, is Fiona and Tucker have one pool and 2 like stalls in the back, and BB and Fritz have another pool and their stalls, but also sometimes we'll put Fiona with BB and Fritz. The reason that we don't have all 4 of them together inside is because Tucker is giant, and we want to make sure that if BB decides that she is upset with him, he does not get stuck somewhere in a corner. So oftentimes it's Fiona and Tucker spending time together in BB and Fritz, but they can lay right next to each other. There's a gate in between their pools, so they can be nose to nose, or also up on land they can see and smell and be right next to each other. So typically they are doing a lot of foraging activities. We'll scatter beet pulp and Timothy cubes and their produce. We'll chop it up really small. But they do have indoor pools. They are heated. They have heated floors. They love to nap on those. And again, it's usually only for a day or 2 at a time. And then we get them outside.
And Jenna does a great job, too, of keeping everybody stimulated mentally with training, too.
Oh, yeah, we do a lot of training.
Yeah, we do the blood draw, the injection training, like just desensitizing them to touch and things, tusk work with Tucker. So all of that is also another thing that breaks up their day, and we can keep them busy and stimulated. So wintertime is not horrible for them by any means. They're still living the good life here at the zoo.
Yeah, and thankfully we are able to heat their outdoor pool as well, so that allows them to go out at those colder temperatures. And they're pretty hardy animals, so I think they can handle it. It's just one of those things where in Africa, even if it does get really cold at night, it's usually going to warm up the next day. Where here, it may not do that. It might be cold all day for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Right.
And Wendy, you did mention some of the training and operant conditioning that we do here with the hippos. Jenna, will you speak a little bit to the training behaviors that you have currently with some of our hippos?
Yeah, so for Fiona specifically, she's been trained for blood draws for a few years now. We've gotten a few on her this past summer and fall. And I know one of the questions we get is, how is her health? And aside from her size, her being premature has not affected her health in any way. She's a little bit smaller, but otherwise we do routine blood draws on her, and her prematurity has not affected that or her health at all. So we do blood draws from her tail. We also do blood draws from BB's tail, and Wendy has done a great job training Tucker for blood draw from his tail, which is like very brave because Tucker dung showers. So for anyone who doesn't know what dung showering is, it's when males will, spread their scent and mark their territory by literally showering the space with their dung and urine. So they'll swing their tail back and forth really quickly while they defecate and urinate at the same time, and it goes everywhere.
And you are just right. I can't emphasize enough when you're doing this blood draw on his tail, like, you are right in the target zone to just get covered with some urine and some poop. So Wendy's she's dedicated. That's for sure.
Yeah. He's a gentleman, though. Most of the time, once we start training, I guess he like switches that desire off. Thankfully, there've only been 1 or 2 close calls. Always leave like an exit strategy to run out of there in case that happens. So.
But this year, what was new for her? So Fiona knows how to back up and sit and open her mouth, and we work on her teeth a tiny bit with a rasp, but she doesn't really need work, so we just kind of get her desensitized to this giant file or rasp rubbing against her teeth. And then she allows us to touch her ears, which I might talk about here in a second, why that's important. And then radiographs was the new training that we did with Fiona. So it wasn't necessarily super trained, I guess, but desensitizing her to, 3 to 4 people there in lead vests and a bright yellow box with a light and a plate that goes to the side of her face or under her chin. And we were able to get some good shots of her teeth. Hippos' heads and skin and everything is so thick that the hardest part is getting them out, like sticking their heads out far enough and having them open their mouth long enough that you can get the shot and they aren't trying to eat whatever the x-ray plate or the machine or the person or whatever next to them, and just keeping them like straight ahead or however you need them. That's the hardest part, but basically it was one of those things where we're just desensitizing her to all of the new things and having her hold her mouth open long enough to get the shot. So that's the newest one. And then we did that with Fritz and BB, and we're still working on Tucker with the radiographs. But for training, once we get radiographs on Tucker, we'll move on to Fritz blood draws, is doing blood draws from his tail. So anytime I get the chance to touch his tail, we just lift it or mess with it, and he's actually really good about it. But Fiona's ears, we mentioned, some people have noticed that she's been holding her ears down or kind of lateral lately, and we've done swabs and given her or had the vets come do checkups on her, and we do think that she probably had or has an ear infection that we've been treating. And thankfully, like when she was younger, we taught her to allow us to touch her ear. So, hold her ear, say ear, and then if she doesn't move it, like wiggle it or move away, then she got rewarded. So that allowed us to do some medicating. So we were able to put ointments into her ears to treat these ear infections. Mm-hmm.
That's such a great example, too, of how sometimes the kind of like training and desensitization that we start with an animal, we never know if it will have a practical application or not. It's like, we were just playing with her ears because they were cute, and why not? And we're relationship building. But then we got to this point in her life where we have a hippo with an ear infection, which is pretty unheard of. I mean, it's very odd because they do close their ears off when they go in the water to try to keep the water out and everything. So we're not sure what happened there. But the fact that she was comfortable allowing us to touch and literally stick a cotton swab down there to collect samples so that we can address what's happening and we can have all the information and then extrapolate that to the other hippos. So we also got swabs of the healthy hippos in this scenario, and we could compare.
Oh yeah, because BB and Fritz also allow us to do it. Yep. So we did. That was one of the things, I forgot that part, that helped us know. Yeah. Is this the issue? Because we didn't know exactly what was causing her to hold her ears down, but we did see her like kind of rubbing on some of the gates, and we figured it was itchy. Yeah. But yeah, we were able to compare the bacteria in her ear to Fritz and BB's ears. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned that they can like kind of like pinch off their ears or close off their ears when they go underwater. So it's weird. We're confused as how like, I guess it could be bacteria, but why water would get in her ear to cause an ear infection. But that also makes it harder to get a really great treatment because she can kind of close her ears off, even if she sits there and allows us to put the ointment in. You know, if you've ever had like a dog and tried to treat their ears, they don't want that like feeling going, like the ointment or the medication going down to their ears. So it's hard to know exactly how much is getting into her ear and able to like treat the bacteria or whatever is causing it. But we are working on that, and hopefully we'll get her back to 100% and no more ear infection soon.
Yeah, for sure. So another question we get a lot about is Fiona's relationship with her keepers. Does she still enjoy the keeper interaction, and do you think she recognizes the keepers? Like, does she recognize each of us as individuals? What do you guys think about that?
I mean, the individuals part, I would assume so. I think she's very intelligent. I think she knows people. Do I think she has like a favorite or that sort of thing? I don't know about that. She likes all people. She likes attention. And she still does interact with us. If she sees us working with one of the other hippos, she wants to be there and see what's going on and wants the attention. You can tell because she'll get as close to us by sticking her head through, the gates when possible. And
I
she
swear
loves mouth
she gets
massages.
jealous too, because when you're doing a training session with one of the other hippos, she'll just give you that puppy dog look.
Yes.
Like she's like, "Is it my turn yet?"
Have you forgotten about me? Right. She's like, I'm over here. You're facing the wrong direction.
I do think that's one of the hardest parts for her, potentially, with Fritz coming along and Tucker, is that it used to just be her and BB, and we had so much more time to dedicate to just, like, each individual hippo. Now it's spread out amongst 4 instead of 2. BB's attention is spread out.
Yeah.
So Fiona could be feeling it. It's hard to know. We don't want to anthropomorphize, and who knows exactly what Fiona's feeling. But I do think she likes attention, and she definitely still likes to greet us, especially if you have coffee breath or, if you blow towards her, like we blow towards her face, she goes nuts still. So I think she still really enjoys relationships with people, and I think she can recognize individuals for sure.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah. To your point, just seeing like when I go over there with some of the other keepers on our team, I think she reacts differently to each one of us. Like, I think it's pretty clear just based on her reactions that she's recognizing each of us as an individual and reacting accordingly.
Yeah.
Like you say, she doesn't have favorites. I know I'm not her favorite. I'm okay with that. But
I don't think I'm her favorite, but it's one of those things, I don't know how we would ever know. Exactly.
She gets pretty excited when Teresa's around.
Yeah.
Like every time I see her interact with Teresa, I feel a little sad that I'm like, oh man, I never quite get that response from her, but she definitely remembers whatever mom number 3, whatever Teresa was. There's so many of us back then.
I feel like it's like Teresa, Jenna, you, and Dana. Like I feel like the 3 of you, she really usually has a big reaction to when you guys walk in the building.
Or we could just have the stinkiest breath. Who really knows, But yeah, she definitely loves people still, I feel like. But I still see the moodiness, and like, I don't know, I can tell if she's not getting attention or if you don't do what she wants. She'll, like, I don't know, somehow let you know that she's kind of annoyed.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's met a few celebrities this past year too, like in terms of like meeting people.
Oh, yeah.
She still seems to very much get a kick out of meeting people at the wall.
Do you want to talk about some of those people she's met?
Yeah, she's had we had a couple of political leaders. So Mayor Aftab Piraval from Cincinnati was here. So she met the mayor recently. She also met Governor DeWine this year. And then 2 soccer stars. She met Rose Lavelle from the women's team. And then one of the men's soccer players. Oh, who was it?
I don't remember his name. I don't follow soccer.
Angela thinks it may have been Acosta.
Okay,
we're sorry if we're offending.
Oh, from FC Cincy. I didn't know she met him.
Players. Yeah,
Acosta.
Yeah.
He was the striker for FC Cincy. I totally missed that one. I didn't even know he came.
I didn't even keep track of all of her celebrity meetups. And who else someone from the Bengals, right, Mark?
Yeah, it was T. Higgins. Yeah, one of our big wide receivers for the Bengals.
Oh, and Trey Hendricks?
Trey Hendricks.
Yeah, him and his wife are really, really sweet. I got to meet them, and I think they're big fans of the zoo.
They're really nice. They came and watched lion training too, and yeah, that was a fun moment. Yeah, so she's had a big year in terms of meeting people and celebrities. There's probably more that we can't even remember, but in that sense, she's as popular as ever.
Yes,
her fan base continues to grow,
and she always seems to enjoy those interactions too, and those tours. Like, she gets some extra treats, she gets some extra attention, and she goes nuts for it.
Definitely.
So another question we got regarding their outdoor habitat, the outdoor space the hippos spend time in, is why are the fish out there? What are the fish doing in the pool? Are the hippos eating the fish? Are they food for the hippos? What are they doing there?
The hippos are not eating the fish. The only exception is, honestly, when a tilapia passes away, sometimes the hippos get to it before we do, and we have seen them kind of play with it or mouth it, but they don't eat the fish. The fish are actually out there to help us keep the water clean. So the fish will eat the dung that the hippos produce, and then they also eat the dead skin cells off the hippos as well. So it's like every day the hippos go out as a spa day, which is nice. And I swear I feel like Tucker fishes for tilapia. I think that's one of his strategies where he'll accept an entire head of lettuce, chew it up, and then open his mouth underwater and let the tilapia like swim in and steal that lettuce. I don't know what's going on with this. I'm watching it and have theories about it. But no, the tilapia are mostly out there to help us keep the water clean and make the habitat more dynamic for the hippos as well. So yeah, they are not the hippos are not eating the fish. Instead, the fish are helping us keep the water clean, and they're eating dead skin cells and fecal matter that the hippos produce.
And we also have divers out there that help keep the pools clean. So they come out 3 days a week and dive the pools while the hippos are safely inside, and help us by vacuuming and scrubbing the walls and the windows and everything. So the fish help, and we also have humans helping because hippos produce a lot of waste.
Yeah, our dive team's amazing. That's for sure.
And a lot of them are volunteers.
Yes.
So shout out and thanks to people coming in early in the morning on cold days to go swim in the hippo pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of work for sure. So I do have no trivia, but one little gimmick for you guys if you're up for it.
Sure.
We've all heard of the 7 wonders of the world, but have you heard of the 7 wonders of Fiona? That's right. So we're going to cover 7 hippo/Fiona related things here at our zoo that I think are pretty amazing, and I'm sure our listeners would agree too. So for starters, Jenna spoke a little bit about how she was hand-raised, her unique upbringing. Fiona was eating bottles from keeper staff. When she was weaned from her bottles, so like her final amount that she was getting, how many ounces of milk was she getting each day?
Oh,
It's
I
a
should
tough
know this
one.
because I was looking it up not too long ago.
It's tricky though because most of the measurements at the time were
Yeah,
milliliters.
they weren't
so
in
I
ounces.
converted milliliters to ounces. I think ounces are a little bit easier to comprehend. Yeah.
So she was getting like 2 liters 3 times a day, I'm pretty certain. Well, and then we also started decreasing it. So are we talking about the highest amount? Or
Yeah,
the
highest amount. Sorry,
okay.
the highest amount.
Oh my gosh.
I have no idea.
Liters, milliliters,
I couldn't even begin to.
ounces.
You have the answer.
Conversion
for us,
stuff.
though?
I have the answer for you.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so... No, I can't do
I
that
think
math
you're on the right
quickly.
track, Jenna,
Yeah.
but just the different
Yeah,
unit.
I can't.
So it's about 340, 350 ounces
Okay.
of milk. Yeah, which was a couple 2 liters a day.
Yes,
Yeah, which
which
is insane.
And she would just chug it.
It's
in
a lot of milk.
It's 2 minutes. It did not take long at all.
So Fiona's a wonder for the way she was raised, that's for sure. But moving that on to today, one of the wonders of Fiona, she's come all the way from 29 pounds. Jenna mentioned our scale has been broke for the last, month plus, so we don't have an exact current weight on her. But what was her last weight?
I think it was like 24.48 or something around there.
I was going to say, it's definitely over 2,400, but under 25. I know
Or
that
24.78.
You guys are right there in that range. 2,461
Okay.
was her last weight. So yeah, right in that range, all the way from 29 pounds, which is insane.
Wow.
Yeah, she's come a long way. That's for sure. This one's a little more subjective. Fiona, one of her wonders is she loves food. She never misses an opportunity for a snack.
Her wonders.
What is her favorite food? I have my answer, but I'm curious to
was
hear
gonna say,
your
that's
guys' answer
subjective.
too. It's very subjective, yeah.
I mean, I would think it would be the watermelon, but I swear I've heard Jenna say numerous times that she likes that romaine better than anything.
Oh, I don't know about better than anything. She'll just still do anything for romaine.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't think you're wrong thinking the watermelon.
Yeah, that was my thought too, was just the melons in general. I think the watermelon and the cantaloupe.
Cantaloupe.
She really enjoys cantaloupe.
Yeah.
Like, I know when we do training sessions sometimes, Jenna will save the high value cantaloupe item for when we need a blood draw or an injection or something like that. And the cantaloupe always does seem to get her to just hold steady when we really need her to.
I feel like, so, she will pick her, in the past, which now we feed them a little differently. But in the past, if you did hay and grain at the same time, she would actually eat her hay first. This was like years ago at this point. So I would have said in the past she likes hay better than grain. But then if you added lettuce to the three of those, she would eat the lettuce over the grain or the hay. So I do feel like she loves lettuce. But then, yeah, when you give them something sweet or a type of produce, I feel like that's probably the winner.
The lettuce,
yeah.
you would think.
And then since Tucker joined us, we started using these Timothy or alfalfa cubes for training because they were one of his favorites, and he had that at San Francisco. And I do think all of the hippos love those. But it's so hard to know a favorite for sure. But I think cantaloupe, watermelon, lettuce are up there.
Yeah, that's what I would say too. I think that's pretty good estimation. Another wonder of Fiona, she really enjoys her enrichment. So this is another subjective one. What would you guys say is Fiona's favorite enrichment item or enrichment opportunity that we provide for her?
Definitely the tumble feeder, right?
Yeah.
With like beet pulp in it. Any of her toys that produce food.
Anything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So
Like, yes.
a
Keep it
cylinder
coming.
with like quarter-size holes will put like her beet pulp or grain in it, and she has to push it around so she'll play more with it because food is involved.
Yeah.
But she definitely likes to check out like chalk drawings, and she still loves scents, so spices on the ground. But she'll spend the most time interacting with a toy if food is involved for sure. So
Definitely. My two thoughts were, as far as toys go, the cylinder with the food in it. She loves when she can get bee pulp out of it. And then she seems to go crazy for when we do. We don't do it often, but when we do the honey on exhibit on the glass,
definitely.
like if our dive team can do that for us some days, she goes crazy for the honey on the glass.
yeah, definitely.
She always enjoys that one. All right, another wonder, not just of Fiona, but of hippos in general, that I think there was some confusion about online when I was reading people's opinions, and I'm curious if Jenna can clear the air for us. What substance do hippos secrete from their skin?
Well, it's called blood sweat, but it's a type of mucus.
Yes.
Or it is a mucus.
Yeah, so I kept seeing stuff online that people are saying, why are the hippos bleeding? Like, why is blood coming out of their skin all the time? And I want you to clear the air on what this substance is.
So blood sweat is a mucus that hippos produce, and it has a few different advantages that it gives them. So it's high in acidity and actually protects them from bacteria by killing off bacteria. It's like their own antiseptic. So if they get cuts in the wild from fighting or whatever, they heal really quickly. It also makes a lacquer over their skin. When it's really hot, they produce more of it, and when they're stressed, they produce more of it. So it'll keep them safe from the sun and also biting insects. So it helps wounds heal quickly, and just their skin stay moist and healthy in general. But it's one of those things where I always have said if they're hot or stressed, it comes out with this red tint to it, and it looks like they're bleeding because it'll bead up like sweat. So that's how it got the name blood sweat. But if they're not stressed or if they're not hot, it's clear, and sometimes they don't produce it at all. And I was always questioning am I crazy? Is this it? But I follow another cool hippo keeper across the world somewhere, I think Copenhagen, and he also mentioned that he will notice that they can kind of turn it on or off when they want. And I don't know if you've noticed that. But with BB, when she's pregnant, it's also much, much darker and will stain the walls, stain our hands. Yes. For whatever reason, there's a higher, acidity or something scientific that I am not good at explaining right now that causes a different color to it. So
I've even noticed when the females are cycling, Tucker seems to get extra blood sweaty, especially when he's separated from them, and like you said, a stress response where he's I gotta get to the girls, and he gets covered in it, just saturated with it. And yeah, I think there's a whole lot to it that we're still learning and don't know scientifically, but anecdotally, we see all sorts of scenarios where it seems to be different amounts or different shades of it, but it's got a lot of incredible properties, apparently, to it.
Yes,
so
definitely.
Probably worth studying further.
Right.
No, to me, it's definitely a miracle substance. It's a wonder of hippos, that's for sure. So you got 2 wonders left. Both of these wonders are maybe what Fiona's most famous for, her following. Her big fan base. We know that Fiona's supported a lot of conservation over the years with her fan base, and that to this day she still has a huge following. So one of the wonders of Fiona, what is the most viral video Fiona has on our zoo's YouTube page?
Ooh,
How many views does it have?
Oh.
I'll give you a hint. It's her 4-month-old checkup video. So they're like at the start, we're creating videos on the YouTube page pretty frequently to chronicle the way she was raised. So for whatever reason, her early videos all have tons.
Wait, we just have to tell how many views?
Yeah, how many views?
Will you describe the video more? What does she do in it?
I don't know exactly what she does. It's a longer video,
okay,
but it's her 4-month-old checkup video. Yeah.
I'll say. Wait, how many views? Not likes.
How many views? How many views? Yeah.
Oh man, I'm gonna embarrass myself. I hate guessing. I'm like,
Jenna's favorite is numbers. Yeah.
225 million views.
I'll say.
Or is that like Taylor Swift territory? Am I completely?
No, I don't think you're. I was gonna say higher.
Oh,
I would
okay.
say I'll say 421 million views.
You guys are both a little high on this.
I'm really high, Mark.
Fiona's famous, but
not that big.
I was thinking back to 4 months. That was the height of her. I don't know.
That was. I think Wendy's right though. I think once you get into the 100 million, you're talking
Beyonce,
Taylor
Swift,
Beyonce type of stuff. Don't get me wrong. I think Fiona's worthy of
close,
that.
Mark.
She's close, but her 4-month-old checkup had 29 million views.
That's it?
29.
Give her some credit. 29 million views.
One for each pound when she was born.
There you go.
We gotta get those numbers up. We gotta get some really great videos going.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right, so
TikTok wasn't around then.
The last wonder of Fiona. We've been able to kind of, through Fiona, support a lot of great conservation efforts. So with our Hanging with the Hippos tours that we do, our behind-the-scenes tours for the hippos, just in 2023, just last year, how many dollars were raised? Can't speak today. How many dollars were raised for conservation through our Hanging with the Hippos tour last year?
I know this one. I know that at the end of the day, when we had several organizations that actually matched our donations, but the amount of money that we ended up sending to the Uganda Conservation Foundation for their waterways project, which protects hippos in the wild, was $90,000, right?
Yeah, Wendy's spot on with that one. Yeah.
It was pretty incredible. They really, really needed our help this year they always do, but there's been a huge decline in hippo populations in Uganda specifically, and they also had a boat that wasn't working well, and they knew they needed a new one, and it eventually did blow up, literally blew up, and unfortunately one of the rangers was killed. And so these donations helped them buy a boat and provide gas for the boat. And there's been a lot of hardships over there. So it's really incredible to know that this little hippo who's changed our lives in so many ways is also helping change lives for wild hippos and hopefully for the men and women that work for the Ugandan Wildlife Conservation Fund. But so thank you to everyone who came for those tours and gave back to conservation by doing so. It's incredible, and we hope to continue giving that much or more every year. I know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you said, it's just amazing what she's been able to accomplish, not just for us here in the tri-state area or at our zoo specifically, but across the world. She's done so much for so many people, and especially for hippos in the wild, it's great to see her be able to contribute to that and give back to that.
Absolutely. So we did have a question about how you can support hippo conservation from afar. We just mentioned that the zoo supports hippo conservation. We do tours that sell out every year where you can come and meet all 4 hippos, and the zoo gives back 50% of those proceeds to Uganda Conservation Fund, and we are really, really proud of that and thankful that Fiona draws that much attention to hippo conservation. So that is one way that you can give back, is schedule a tour with the zoo actually, or give to that conservation fund. But tomorrow we are celebrating, or when this comes out, it'll be a huge happy 7th birthday to Fiona, and you can give back to the zoo, which in turn gives back to hippo conservation by doing what, Mark? What can I do? How are we celebrating Fiona?
So we're celebrating Fiona's lucky 7th birthday in the only way we know how, with a $7 raffle.
Ooh.
$7 raffle. So we're also offering $7 admission, which if you're listening to this, it's already Fiona's birthday.
Maybe you're listening
Sprint
in the morning.
to the zoo.
Yeah.
Maybe you're listening in the morning. Sprint to the zoo right now. It's $7 admission for Fiona's birthday. But we're also offering a raffle that goes until the end of the month. So you can check out the zoo's website until January 31st. This raffle will be live. It's $7 for an entry fee, or you can do $30 for 7 entries.
Okay.
So this enters you to win the Ultimate Hippo Getaway Package. So this package, it includes a lot of stuff, like a Visa gift card, a 2-night stay at the Graduate Cincy, which is our zoo's official hotel, a gift card, but most importantly, it includes a behind-the-scenes experience to come and meet our hippo bloat. So $7 to enter this raffle to potentially come and meet our hippos, which is, as keepers, something that we get to do frequently, and it is still amazing every single time we get to do it. So it's very special for sure.
Definitely. And like I mentioned, the tours do sell out, so this is an extra chance to get to meet the hippos if you aren't able to snag a tour. The end of February, the tours should go on sale. But it also just spreads awareness and gives back to conservation that way, because the zoo does support hippo conservation through our tours. So if you guys want to help celebrate Fiona's 7th birthday, check out that raffle. We will be doing a Facebook Live, but by the time you're listening to this, it might be over.
But go check out the video, even if it's already posted and it's not live. There will still be a video of Fiona getting her birthday cake. So.
That's true. That's a good point. So we are very excited. It's hard these days to come up with the new, really exciting stuff about Fiona and changes. She has come such a long way, and we're just really, really happy to see her thriving and doing well. And the fact that she's made it to 7 and is just, a happy, healthy, regular teenage hippo, that's all we could ask for.
Yeah, absolutely. She's something special, and it's hard to believe it's been 7 years since she was born. Jenna, I do have one last question for you.
Okay.
So, 2023, the world was introduced to the Eras Tour with Taylor Swift.
Best thing ever.
What era would you say Fiona is in right now?
As
she turns 7 and rounds the corner here, what era is Fiona in?
I wish I had something really witty to say. Fiona is in her maturing era? No, that's boring.
Maturing. She is maturing though.
Yeah, what would you say?
I would say she's in her thriving era.
Her thriving?
Yeah, she's there's no more health concerns on the horizon. She's just coming into her own, into adulthood, and I compare where she's at in life to where a human would be in they're kind of late teens, early 20s, and those are some of the most fun years of your life, right?
That's
You're just
true,
thriving
yeah.
in those years.
Okay, I like it. And if I were going off of a Taylor Swift album, I would...
Yes, I'm an expert on her discography.
I would say that Fiona is probably in her Reputation era.
That's exactly what I was thinking. That's a great answer, Jenna.
She's got a little bit of a tune, she's not taking crap from anybody, so that would be my answer.
Yeah, I was going to say Reputation as well, so I'm glad you said it first.
That's your favorite, isn't it? Or is Lover your favorite?
Probably Reputation,
okay.
Honestly, yeah.
All right, well, thanks for listening, everybody. Happy birthday, Fiona.
Happy birthday, Fiona. Thanks to all her fans for listening and to continue to support her and follow her through the years. We appreciate it here at the zoo. She appreciates it, I'm sure.
And it really does give back to conservation, so we really appreciate that part of it, too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Until next year when we're celebrating her 8th birthday.
Whoop, whoop.
Already excited for that one.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a
Take
good
care.
day.